This is a small deck by the back door that's about 20 years old. The lower step has been replaced with new pressure-treated wood, but the upper part is still original. It's been sanded and stained multiple times over the years, but cracks still formed. And I think it's mainly because the screws at each end of the board were driven in just a little too far, and they basically wedged down into the board and caused splits to form. These splits eventually grew outward until they were a crack the whole length of the board. I'm going to remove and throw out all of the old deck material, and when I cut the new boards, I'm going to make them a little bit longer so that they have some kind of overhang over the frame. If I pre-drill the holes and countersink them to match the shape of the screw head, I think I can avoid some of that splitting down the road. The frame here may look a little bit rough, but it's made of pressure-treated 2x8s, and with a little cleaning, I think it's solid enough to last another 15 or 20 years. It doesn't come in direct contact with the dirt or the ground even, so it's really solid and it will be a good basis for this new material. These boards have been drying in my garage for the past 3 summer months, and now that they're actually a lot lighter than before because most of the moisture has evaporated, I'm ready to cut them to an approximate size needed for the back deck. I'm going to sand just one end of each board at this point because I'll cut the others to the exact length after they're installed. It's a good idea also to put a coat of stain on the bottom and the sides before laying these out on your deck. So this stain matches the color on the other side of the board, but a lot of sand has been mixed into this product so that when the boards are wet, you're not slipping and sliding all over the place. I would much rather be using a roller right now, but because this stain is so thick, you waste a lot in the, what would it be, the nap of the roller when you're applying it, and I don't have much left in that can. So I'm just doing the best I can with this wide brush to apply the textured finish and randomize it as if it had come from a roller. After I install these boards, I will come back using the stain from the other side, and I'll use a roller then to just even everything out, and it should blend in pretty nicely, I think. I'm going to start the boards with the finished end on the left side, leaving about 1 inch overhang on the sides and towards the front of the step. Because of the additional overhang, I can pre-drill these holes, and they're less likely to split the board because they're further away from the edge. This handy little accessory matches the shape of the screw's head, and as long as I don't push the screw into the wood so far, or too far, I should be able to avoid those cracks that lead to water seeping in and the board splitting and failing. That's the general hope and idea here. I think it should work. With the first board down, I double check my measurements to make sure that my distance to the brick wall is about the same on both sides, and it is. So now I can begin with the next row of boards. I stretch out this piece of string between the center of that bottom 2x8 and where the first screw is on the first board. This will give me a nice straight line for the pre-drilling and the countersinking of the screw holes for all the subsequent boards. It'll give you a nice finished look when you're all done. To see all your screw heads in a straight line, it'll look really sharp, trust me. I've just been using a couple of screwdrivers for the spacing between the boards. It's something about like 1/4 of an inch, and that's enough room in case the board should expand or contract a little bit with humidity and changes in the weather. It's really tempting to push these screws in as far as I can, but that would lead to splits in the wood, so I'm just trying to get the head of the screw either flush or just a little bit below the surface of the board. And that should be enough to hold them in place, keep them from moving around, and not develop any cracks, which are the enemy of this project. Cracks are bad. Most of the boards are in place now. The right side has an overhang that's greater than 1 inch, and that's so that I can set this straight edge along, measure it out, and come back with my circular saw to get that exact 1 inch of overhang. All the boards are perfectly, the edges are in a straight line. When you look down the edge, it'll look so nice. I established where that 1 inch overhang should begin, and then measured a further 4.5 inches away from that, and that's where that straight edge board is just temporarily nailed down. This is the kind of edge I like to see. I went almost all the way to the wall, but for this last board I couldn't get close enough, so I'll just clean off this little tip with a handsaw. Just a little bit of sanding will get these edges ready for some stain, and there's a little gap between that last board and the wall of the house. I have to run that board through my table saw, and then I will install that as well. I really like the way this is turning out. You can't see it in these photos, but that bottom wide step has the edges rounded off. So I think instead of these corners that are kind of sharp here, I'm going to round over the ends of these 2 corners on the front face of the platform. So this project is just about finished. I used the stain that I used on the back of these boards. I kept the roller wet in a grocery bag, a plastic grocery bag. So I am just putting one final coat over the entire top and sides of this. The one side on the right needs a little exterior latex cream colored paint, and then I'm done. It turned out pretty nicely. I hope you enjoyed this project, and maybe it will give you a few ideas on how to tackle some of your home improvement work. Until next time, this has been Bob's Workshop. Please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it.